Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about debugging. What's debugging? So debugging is the most powerful tool that you as a programmer must master in order to become a strong programmer. There is no shortcut to it, right? So the debugging basically lets you go inside the program as the computer executes your program line by line. It lets you see what is happening inside your program. So you can watch the variables, put a breakpoint, all of that, right? So that's why debugging is very important. So what are we going to do? We're going to run the program in a debug mode, right? When we ran the program earlier, we just ran through it. It did not stop after each line. Where in this video, we're going to talk about how to debug it, where you will run it in a debug mode. When you run the program in debug mode, it lets you create what's called breakpoints. Breakpoint means, let's say there are 100 lines in a program, and you think there is a problem on line 50. So what you can do, you can put a breakpoint in line 50, and computer runs through line 1 to 49, and then stops at line 50. So you can, from that point onwards, you can go one line at a time if you want. Okay, so that's what is creating breaking points. Once you create breakpoints, you can also let you watch variables, watch the contents of different memory cells as the program executes, as the computer executes your program. During the course of this execution of your program, you can watch these variables, how these values are changing from when the computer goes from one line to next line. So it's a very powerful tool. You must master it. Okay. Without any further ado, let's step into debugging. So we're back here in Visual Studio. In this, we're going to learn how to debug it. And this is our first program that we have gone through many times. So what I'm going to do, two things I'm going to demonstrate to you, how to put a breakpoint. Breakpoint is simply in Visual Studio, simply hover over this line here and then tap. That puts a breakpoint. What does that mean? That means the program is going to stop over here when the computer reaches that line. From that point onwards, you can go line by line. So put a breakpoint, simply tap it here. To remove the breakpoint, tap it again, that removes the breakpoint. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a breakpoint here. So as you will see that it is not going to stop when it goes through this line. It is going to zip through this line. However, it's going to stop when it reaches that line. So I put a breakpoint there. Now, in order to debug, you need to click on this button here in Visual Studio. Once you do that, run and debug button, it shows here. You click on that button and here in the terminal, and you see it went past this line. How do I know? You look over here. It went past that line. It did not stop over there. That's because there is no breakpoint there. And it stopped on this line because of the break. Once you stop that line, you see these things called step over, step into, step out, restart, all of these buttons, continue. So now we have stopped over here on this line. So what I'm going to do is step over. And then what do you see? When you do step over, it executes that line. And as a result of that, you see what's your name. I'm going to type John. Pay attention to this. I typed John over here. I'm about to hit enter and watch the variables here. On the left-hand side, you see all the variables. Now I'm going to press enter and you see how John showed up here. And John showed up in this memory cell called name. That's what we told the computer, right? We told the computer to display this message, and whatever the user types in response to this instruction, store that value into that. And that's what you see. And that's what was typed here by the user. And John got stored into name. Now the computer moves on to the next instruction, and you stop there. And I will do step over again. Now it says enter first number. I type 15 and I press enter. Now watch what happens the moment I press enter. Now you see 15 got stored into this variable called num1. Isn't that what the instruction says? The instruction says display this message, and whatever the user types, store that into that variable. So the 15 got stored into there in num1. The computer moves on to the next instruction. It hasn't executed the next instruction yet. It's about to execute the next instruction when you do step over, boom. Now it's waiting for a second number. When I press enter, you see, now you got the variables name containing John, num1 containing 15, num2 containing 25. And you can also do this. You can simply hover over this num1 and you see it contains 15. You can hover over name, it contains John. You can hover over num2, it contains 25. Now it's stopped in this line. Now what it's about to do, it's going to take what is in num1, add it with what is in num2, and store the result into the total. Right now, the total doesn't have anything. It is not even created yet. Now watch what happens. The moment I do this, now you see total now contains 40. If I hover over total, 40. Now, at this point, you can either step over or you can simply hit continue. Continue means it'll zip through these lines here. It's not going to go line by line. It's going to zip through the remaining lines, okay, until it hits the next breakpoint. Right now, we don't have any more breakpoints. So I'm going to hit continue and it's going to execute these two instructions together because there's no breakpoint on those. So continue, you see, your name is John, the total of two numbers you entered is 40. Again, this is how you debug. The way to debug is put a breakpoint wherever you think there is an issue. You don't have to put a breakpoint on every single line. If you have a program with 100 lines and you think there may be a problem on line number 80, you put a breakpoint on line number 80. So what it does, it zips through from line number 1 to 79 and stops at line number 80. From that point onwards, you can go line by line. Again, you can put breakpoint anywhere you want. And to remove the breakpoint, simply tap over it, it will remove the breakpoint. And in Visual Studio, to debug, simply click on it and then click on Run and Debug. And it opens up this buttons here and stops at the breakpoint. And then from that point onwards, you can go one line at a time. So let's say I remove that breakpoint and I put a breakpoint over here. Now, if I debug, so you see it went through this and now it's waiting for the input for John. See, it's not showing any of the variables here. The variables are not showing any value. First number 15, second number 20. Now watch here. It's going to stop when it hits this line because that's why I put the breakpoint. Press enter, boom. See, it stopped right on that line because there is a breakpoint. That's what breakpoint means. So now it shows you all the variables and their values at that particular breakpoint. So now if I do continue, it's going to zip through the remaining lines. So this is how you use debugging. And as I mentioned, this is the most powerful tool. You must master it. So what I'm going to do now is run the same program in web-based IDE. Remember I talked about web-based IDE where we ran this program before. I'm going to show you how this program can be debugged in that web-based IDE. So here I'm back in this web-based IDE called Online GDB, and I have put the same code that I used in Visual Studio Code here, and I want to demonstrate here how to debug. And just like we did in Visual Studio Code, I can put a breakpoint anywhere here. So I'll put a breakpoint over here and then start the program in debug mode. So this is the button to run in debug mode and continue. So now it's asking, see, it went through these lines and it's executing this line. So come over here, type John, and now it's executing this line. Since we didn't put a breakpoint there, so it's not showing any variables. 10 and 20, 30. See, the moment the computer reach over here, it's showing you the contents of the variables. The name contains John, num1 contains 10, num2 contains 30, so on and so forth. Now you can do step over here if you want. Step over, see your name is John, step over. It's not as pretty as the Visual Studio Code. It's telling you that that is a code that it's running. Step over and the total number entered is 40. So one more time, let me stop that there. And then this time I'm going to put a breakpoint over here. Again, this is not the most powerful tool. That's why I suggest strongly that you use the Visual Studio Code compared to this. Continue. Okay, now it's asking for name. I type John, first name, step over. See here, you see the variable contains John, 10. Now you see the num1 containing the 10. Step over 30, press enter, and you see it tells you where the cursor is right now. Num2 containing 30, and step over. Total contains 40, so it just completed the execution of that. And next line that it's going to execute is this. Step over, step over. The total of two numbers is 40. Now it reached the end of that, so then you can do stop. Again, this is not the most powerful debugging tool. Again, this is something that you can use while you are waiting to download the Visual Studio Code or something. You can try using this online tool. It's free, but it's not very powerful tool. Okay, just be aware of that. So now what we have done is we have covered how to debug the code using Visual Studio Code and also how to debug the code using online tool over here. So we learned how to debug the code using Visual Studio Code, and we also learned how to debug in that online web-based IDE. Right. So make sure you practice this as many times as possible. Every program that you write, especially the beginning programmer, try to debug it. Try to go, inside the program, watch every single variable, and that is actually the best way to learn how the computer runs your program and watch all those variables changing, to watch them change as the computer executes the program. Okay. Thank you for watching. In the next video, we're going to take a look at another program and learn about all the instruction, what this program does and how it works, all of that. So that's coming up in the next video. And thank you for watching. See you in the next video.